Hello, Joy Horner here. Just wanted to share another birth gem with you. And this one's actually about labour, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what labour is and how long it lasts and what's a true labour and what's a false labour. So I just wanted to debunk a couple of myths. And thank you for Michelle Quashie for prompting me to do this. So it's a thought in my mind about how we think labour happens in stages, and it happens on a linear graph, which means you should dilate at 1 centimetre an hour or half a centimetre an hour, because all our bodies are the same and we all do things in the same way at the same time, don't we? Not. Yeah, so my best saying is labour isn't linear. It just isn't. So if you're told you're not dilating at 1 centimetre an hour or at half a centimetre an hour, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing at all. And someone asked me, how long is a long labour? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah, how long's a bit of string, really, isn't it? So I've already said all our bodies do things at different rates and in their own time. So for some people, a 24-hour labour for their first baby, active labour, is a long labour. For other people, if they go into labour on the Monday and don't have their baby till the Friday, they'd consider that a long labour. And this is where the idea of true and false labour comes in. So sometimes people go to the hospital, they have their cervixes checked and are told you're only 1 centimetre or 2 centimetre, maybe 3 centimetres dilated. You are. Yeah, should be your cervixes, but there we are. That's what we tend to tell people. You are 2 centimetres dilated. You are not in labour. Go home and wait for things to speed up properly. Come back when you're in active labour. Now, for the person in labour, they are in labour. That is labour. Just because the cervix hasn't opened beyond 4 centimetres doesn't mean they're not in labour. It is labour. It's early labour. It's sometimes called the latent phase, but you are in labour. The way that health professionals record labour is a law unto itself. So we class the start of active labour from when you have strong, regular, painful contractions and your cervix is opening past 4 centimetres. Now, how we ascertain that is a total guess. I have to debunk the myths that we're all experts and we all know all the answers, because we guess when your labour started, it is an educated guess, of course, but depending on what information you've shared with us. So I ask when your contractions got longer and painful and had more of a pattern to them. When did they last more than 60 seconds? When did they have a real pattern to them? And when did you think, yeah, this is definitely labour? And then if we do an internal at some point, I then have to tie that in with when you said labour got really strong and hard and fast, and see if the two tally. And they're not going to, because everyone dilates at a different rate, so we don't know when your labour starts. So when you think your labour has started and you've got long, strong, regular, uncomfortable contractions, not everyone feels them as painful, if they're happening about every 3 to 5 minutes, you're probably in active labour. If they're a bit irregular, you have one, then you wait 20 minutes, have another one, wait 5 minutes, have another one, wait 15 minutes, have another one, and they each last about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. That may not be the active phase of labour. It's still labour. There's no such thing as false labour. Even a labour that stops and starts, and this is typical of a third baby, although not all third babies, of course, produce a labour this way, but third babies particularly seem to be the ones that get their mums to call the midwives And we rush out, yeah, this sounds like it's long and strong and painful and regular, and yeah, this is it. And we go out and we watch and we wait and we monitor, and it all fizzles out. It's not false labour, but you can have a stop-start labour sometimes, and that's perfectly okay too. Another one of my great sayings, other than labour isn't linear, is, oh, look, I've got a menopausal brain. And I forgot now. It's about, yes, yes. So, the absence of contractions is called pregnancy. I'll say that again. The absence of contractions is called pregnancy. So, unless you have any risk factors, if you've had a previous cesarean, or I don't know, you've got some other medical condition, obstetric history, which would indicate we really want to see what a labour's doing and that it actually progresses once it gets started. Maybe breech labours perhaps. Unless you've got any of those, if your labour starts and then stops, even if you're in hospital or your midwife's with you, even if you're past 5 centimetres, it does not mean there is a problem. Whereas if you've got a scar on your uterus from a cesarean and the labour stops, it could be a sign that something dangerous is happening. You need to get that checked out. So, the absence of contractions is called pregnancy. And I know hospitals are very busy, and as one ward matron once told me, it's all to do with numbers and throughput, Joy. Numbers and throughput. Yeah, it is. They have to get people moved through the system because they've got lots more waiting to come in. Even before the crisis, hospitals run at capacity because that's the efficient way to run them. So, if your labour slows down or stops, perhaps your body needs a rest, perhaps your baby needs to reposition itself. If everything else is fine, so baby's heart rate's being monitored, all your vital signs are stable, it's a rest and be thankful phase. You can you can always ask for more time. So if the midwife or doctor says we need to put a drip up, your labour's stopped, you can ask the questions. What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? What if I use my instinct or intuition? What does that tell me? And what if we do nothing? Well, if you do nothing, you could be here next week. Well, if your labour doesn't start up again, you could have a sleep maybe. And I know they haven't got enough room for that, so perhaps you'd have to go home and have a sleep. I don't know. Depending on the stage of labour, of course. And I'm only talking about very low risk, healthy women and birthing people and healthy babies at this point. So yeah, how long's a labour? As long as a bit of string. Does it have stages? No, it has phases. It has phases where it's active and it has phases that are latent. It has rest phases and acceleration phases. And I'm going to have to write a blog on this because I like this. All the best. Happy birthing. You can do this.